on, my friends? I'm Rick, and this is your Seat at the Table, and this is little Missy. You've heard me talk about her a lot. We're going to see how she handles things. Yes, you. She's just getting used to being her. She's been becoming very friendly. She's getting a little more used to the other cats. We're letting her out a little bit more, a little bit more. She doesn't know jack about the computers, so she needs to stay off the keyboards. Yes, yes. If you get too ornery, you can go back in your little house for a little bit. Yes. Right? So, my friends, there's always something. It just crops up and keeps cropping up, and no matter what you do, it just seems like there's always yet another thing that becomes a trigger for drama. And if you're with the BattleTech community right now, almost all of you are aware by now of the CGL comment and issue. Now, I don't personally have not been on any of their channels very much, and so I'm not even sure what channels Catalyst has acquired and taken over. I suspect one I know for sure, and one I suspect is theirs. Is six sides of dice or something that's part of Catalyst. I mean, I'm a little vague on that. Anyway, right? Let's just take an example of the shit that happens. Last week, I did some videos, and it takes a while. I spend 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a week doing videos when I can. Sometimes I get advantages and sometimes I don't. As for example, today is Wednesday. I have been scrambling my ass off trying to catch up since we got the truck back and the weather loosened up so we can do stuff to get my customer base caught up. I'm literally weeks behind. I'm closing the gap considerably, and I noticed when I was scheduling out a couple of weeks that the second week of February is going to be a slow week for me. So anything I can't get done will be moved forward, and eventually I will get to them, but I will have everything caught up within a few weeks for sure, barring any other unforeseen. What are you, a parrot now? Huh? The parrot, right? The big fuzzy parrot. Let me say for a minute, Missy came to us in the summer. She showed up. I don't think she's about a year. I think she's about a year old now, maybe a little older than a year old. She showed up a couple houses down, and she was hanging around, and she was literally skin and bones. And when you hear people say that, I'm talking, emaciated. How she was not feeding, she just somehow did not learn how to feed herself outside very well. She didn't catch birds or mice very often. I think she was living off of bugs. I mean, I can't prove that, and whatever scraps people would give her, and she kept hanging around the folks down here for a couple months, and then she moved to the house. She moved outside the house next door before the owner sold it and moved away at the end of the summer. She was in her windows trying to get her attention, and of course upsetting the 7 or 6. Hey, come on, Miss, you can't do that. Yeah, see, she don't know. She was outside her windows and upsetting her cats inside. And Sissy and Fluffy, or Doofus as I like to call him, used to belong to the neighbor lady, and she lets her cats in and out all the time, which is a really dangerous thing to do in this neighborhood with the street traffic a block over. It's bad. And so they basically live in our house, and they have for probably 4 years, 4 years now, at least 3 years. And anyway, so Missy was showing up over there, and then I told, because that's when the wife got told, and I said, we'll start putting dry food back outside, because we feed strays. Any strays that come along, I try to help them. I mean, the world's a hard enough place. It's effed up, and it's a fucked up world out there if you're not familiar with it. If you're good and you live in a nice little cocoon or bubble and you're very successful and your world is very successful and you don't have a whole lot of stress in it, good for you. My money says the lion's share of the people watching my videos are not in that category. Everybody stresses. Everybody has stresses, whether it's personal, relationship, financial, whatever. Right? So anyway, she was literally skin and bones, and I was worried about her. I didn't think she was going to do well. So she just waltzed straight in the house. We opened the door. She came right in. She ain't gone back out since. And we're not going to let her out of the house at this point, I don't think. My intention is to hopefully make her and integrate her into the rest of the cat community out there in the house. I hate to sound morbid, but Squeaky, that's my mom's cat, who's got to be between 18 and 20. It's hard to nail down her actual age, but I know based on what I heard when they were estimating she came to the house as a kitten, my folks' house, when my cousin brought her, we're putting her at about 18 years ago. And so the fact she's still alive, but she's got a lot of problems, and we're poor. It's one of those horrible things where people tell you, well, if you can't afford to take your pets to the vet, like you go to the doctor, look, friend, I don't go to the doctor myself that often. And prior to getting onto this community care thing out at the county hospital that covers expenses that my so-called open market insurance doesn't cover, which is pretty much everything, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have health care at all because I can't afford it. I'm poor. It just is. The wife and I, we cleared about $54,000 last year, which is the most I have ever had in my lifetime. And we still struggle. We're holding our own, but it's barely. And I'll use the case in point. This past Friday, we were out. It had snowed heavily, and the roads were kind of dodgy. And for whatever reason, every damn gas station in the greater Des Moines area that I've stopped at in the past week has broken air compressors. So the tire on the back of our van kept getting lower and lower and lower, no matter where we went, and they were all broke. And we were out running our errands, getting groceries, and I had a van full of food and the wife, and it was like 2 degrees outside, and the tire was getting lower and lower. So I started looking for gas stations, and I went to 3 of them. When I get to the 3rd one, at this point, I found one that's working. So that's 8 gas stations in 4 days looking for an air compressor. I found one that worked, but the tire would not hold any air at that point. I had been driving on it to the point where I destroyed the tire. So we had no choice but to go to the nearest tire shop. Thank God for all the snow on the ground, because that actually cushioned the tire, which allowed me to drive like I was normally driving. You wouldn't do that on a hot summer day because your tire would come right off the rim. So I went to the nearest tire place, and the week before had been a brutal week for Brenda and I. I only had 28 hours, and we didn't have money for groceries 2 weeks ago. We bought everything we needed. We had to pay our bills, which we had to absolutely do. I will not allow bills to skip, because if they skip, then they become added on. You just stack on top of more bills. They have to, every week, certain things need to be paid. That way, they're done. Because if you don't, next thing you know, and I've been there a long time ago, and it's some hard lessons to learn. So priorities are this, that, and the other thing, including the cats. The cats get fed way before we do. That I take as gospel. For the love of God, we got 13 of these things now that were between the strays living in the garage and the ones here in the house. So there's 13 of them, and there's actually a 14th one who started showing up here about a month and a half ago. He's a very skittish orange cat. He comes down either overnight in the middle of the night or very early in the morning, and if you even open the window, you look out, he'll bolt. Let alone you can't open the door and go outside. He runs. So, I mean, on the positive side, he runs from everything. So that's probably a good thing for him. He's likely to not get hit by a damn car or nothing. I'm assuming it's a male. I don't know. But anyway, I plugged in the cat house, the heated cat house we got in our front yard that I built. And we started putting, and we put the heated water dish out and put fresh water in it every day. And I put a little bit of dry food in a bowl every day. And whenever we see him, if we can, we'll toss a plate of wet food out the front door, and more often than not, he'll run halfway across the street and then come back. But that's half the time. So in the cold weather, there's no point in putting wet food outside for any length of time because it'll freeze solid. And we've tried that. So like at night when we have anything left over, our indoor cats have turned their noses up at, the wife Brenda scrapes it all off onto a plate, and we stick it out in the doghouse for them because we want to give them a chance. like I said, I've had a rough life, and I've done some pretty stupid shit in my lifetime, and I've paid some awful prices, and more important, my family paid a lot of awful prices because of my stupidity and arrogance back in the day. That said, I've learned lessons. So I take the pets. They're more than pets to me. They're family and they're friends. Is what it is, right? Okay, speaking. So let's segue over to the part where CGL. So CGL issues, what I understand is this basically saying, please do not talk about subjects that are not suitable or desired on the company's controlled websites and chat sites. That, my friends, take a moment to breathe in and stop and consider the fact that every corporation in the world issues statements of this nature. One, they do this to protect their own butts. I work for a small mom and pop. There's 8 of us working for my boss. And I use that term loosely because my boss does as little possible as he can. I mean, I grant you, he does a lot more than what he gets credit for. He just doesn't stay in the office much. He's out running around and effing off, which at 60, 65, 66, and he's nowhere in time. Him and his wife realize they have no position to be retiring anytime soon. It's his right. And partly, I don't mind that because he don't bother me hardly at all. I mean, every now and then I'll get a text from him, and it's usually related to a customer, and then it's up to me to either have a conniption fit, which I'm prone to do. I am a passive aggressive by nature, and I'm also I get frustrated real quick, and it boils over a little bit. You know, there's some of that redheaded stepchild shit in my family because it just kind of goes with the being who I am. So our company has, even the small mom and pop, has a slew of shit that says, please don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. Or we will have to. So sometimes we have to learn shit the hard way. So I was at a customer, probably 3-4 years ago. Let's say 3 years ago. I think it's about right. I was at a customer's place, and this particular customer has always been a pain in my ass. They only want it done extremely early, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, which is fairly early. And the downside is that the owner runs a daycare during the day too. So getting her to show up on time is hard. Getting her to show up on time is hard. Eventually, they end up closing the bar. The bar did not do as well as they thought it would, and it closed. And I'm great, and I'm more than right. Anyway, I had been out literally all night long. I was out on the job 12 hours, and I was sitting in front of her damn bar. Had been sitting there for an hour and a half because I'm ready to, and I just want this to done so I can then go home and go to bed. I'm just freaking tired. And I just recently been diagnosed with diabetes, so I was having a lot of stressful issues on top of the extreme amount of stress I deal with on a regular damn basis. Just life is stressful, at least for some of us. If you don't have that kind of stress in your life, God, you're lucky. And if you don't realize just how lucky you are, fuck you. You don't like that? Fuck you too, and kick rocks. Because I'm an honest. I always be honest on the channel. That's my biggest fault, is being too honest. I'm extremely opinionated, right? As you well know, if you've followed any of my videos, like now, I have a bad habit of running off on tangents, mostly crying about my personal life. Because like I said, and I don't mean to be an ass or to look like I'm looking for a sympathy or anything, because, empathy is not the same as sympathy. Empathy is what I would like to have, not necessarily sympathy. Anyway, the downsides with all this crap is that you get overwhelmed with stuff. So to try to mediate this, corporations have to cover their ass, but they're also trying to common ground for the most. So when, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with what kind of text and what kind of responses were being posted, what the topics were. I'm only hearing vague stuff. I tend to not want to jump on this stuff when it first happens because A, I don't really know what the hell's going on, and I want to make as much an informed decision as I can. The older I get, the more I want to be that way. That makes me a little bit cautious. Now, that's from experience. I've learned in the past that sometimes jumping the gun on things and making assumptions isn't a very good thing to do. It's actually very bad. And it's a crapshoot. So when I hear guys, and I'm gonna have to pick on Mage Leader for a minute. Mage, I like your shit. I love your channel. I love your stuff. You're a great person. You're very enthusiastic about the hobby and do crack work. Really good stuff. You got blocked. Now I don't know why. Based on from what I'm hearing, it's got to do with some kind of subject material that's being posted on company websites that, from a reliability perspective or from an IP protection perspective, the corporation has to shut you down. And I'm positive that CGL didn't just flip the switch on you on one moment. Like Red does not, if you follow Red's channel and his podcast, because the lion's share of his stuff is based off those podcasts. I'm just being honest, he's got some great videos and stuff. It's the live podcasts that draw people in. And his bread and butter has got to do with that live broadcast far more than any of the videos he's doing. Although he may say otherwise, I suspect the truth. And the truth is that you get a living, you might have 14, 15, 20,000 subscribers, which is great, but in the grand scheme of YouTube, that's a penny on a dollar. No, the money he's making that he's living off of is from subscribers who subscribe to the channel and pay him a monthly membership fee. And that's typical. Most internet websites these days that are trying to run for a profit. They're trying to make money. Red's trying to make money. He's trying to make money to support himself and his doggos and his life as long as possible. And if things go south, then he'll reassess his situation and move on to something else. You know, he lucked into a niche. He has talent for it. He had a lot of time to devote to it. And he had some skills to start with. More importantly, he knew how to find more skills than he needed. Right? That's why it's one of the reasons his channel's doing so well. So I've been on his channel since earliest days. I think he had about 1,000 subscribers when I found his channel and got involved in it. And there's a couple of y'all that follow his channel that are very gracious people because y'all keep paying for me to have a membership to his channel. And I'm utterly grateful for it. I really am. I can't afford to pay for it myself. I just have to go with the free access when I can get it. So when people do that, I don't know who's doing it, but I know in part they're doing it to be generous to other people such as myself. But more in part, they're doing it to help Red stay active, to help keep Red in business because they enjoy his content. They like the material. They like the connectivity. They like the common ground for all of us to get together and do on the channel. That said, Red has certain things that he does not want to be discussing on his channel. And if you think about it, he doesn't want to bring real-world politics into his channel. Catalyst does not want to bring real-world politics into their channels because the problems with doing that is that you get, okay, Missy, I know, but you can't, this is the part where you have to go back in your little house and okay, well then get on the floor, but you're not walking on my laptop. We will teach you. That's part of the, back to the cat. Cats, on average, their intelligence level is around about the equivalent of a 2 to 3 year old human. That's what they say, the specialists say. And I have a tendency to want to believe that because, they're quite clever, but they're not quite dog smart when it comes to learning things. But you give them time and repetition, they catch on. So eventually, the rest of my house cats out here know better than to walk on my laptop. I will move them away from the laptop anytime they get close to it because I want them to understand I don't want them close to it, and let alone on it. Because my laptop, as you hear me cry, is old, and I worry about it constantly being the next day it not working because if it dies today or tomorrow, it'll take me weeks or me begging somebody else to help me get a fucking laptop to replace it. I just don't have the money this year. 2 years ago, man, we at least had a little stash. You know, there was a point I had about $1,000 stashed back at any given time, and I tried to keep it that way. But last year was brutal. Between the extreme costs of everything and the lack of a raise, I can't afford to take a raise. It'll screw with that free insurance stuff I'm getting at the hospital. So I'm kind of screwed. I have to purposely stay poor to have health care. It's that, or go find another job that pays better than I get paid now, because I'll need that compensation, because they're going to take insurance money out of my damn check to pay for health care that may or may not be any better off than where I'm at, the position I'm in at this moment. So it's kind of it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So Catalyst finds itself in a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation. They don't want hostile, aggressive commentary. Nobody wants that. Red don't want it. Red doesn't want to get bogged down in politics of either his country or ours. America's politics right now is terrible. It is a horror show. And it's not going to get better until, I don't know, may never get better. You know, and I'm being damn realist here. I realized that I had to be cautious because I don't want to bring my passions and my opinions to my YouTube channel that's for my gaming hobby. It's hard enough to not go off on tangents about my personal life, because it's more like me trying to explain away or find excuses for how come I can't do this, that, or the other thing, or why they don't get done. But it's more about, I want to talk about our hobbies. I want to talk about the stuff that we all come for, the stuff we spend so much time and money and effort on, you know, of our life, and not drag the real world insanity in with it. So is it wrong for Catalyst to say, don't do this on our channels? To warn people that we will cut you off? We don't want you stirring up shit on our channels that has nothing to do with us, right? That's the main one. Let's go to number 2. Go to number 2. Now, if you on my channel on a long enough period of time, you will understand that I do not own GW shit. I do not own Games Workshop. I don't have anything that's Games Workshop. I do not have any Warhammer of any sort, because Warhammer is 2 to 3 times more expensive than every other product game system that I know. Now, if you got the money and you want to invest in it, or you just want to invest in it over time, that's great. But we all know the story of Games Workshop, and so I'm not going to go off on a tirade here on them and what my real thinking on how they operate shit. But one of the things that they are really hardcore about is preventing or shutting down people who try to commercially manufacture and make money off of their products. Because they're protecting their products. They're protecting their livelihood. They're protecting their business. They're protecting their customers as well. Even though sometimes the customers don't see it or don't appreciate the fact that the company is trying to help them, because without the customers, the company doesn't exist. Straight up. I mean, that is something I know from personal experience in the business world. And I tell my customers all the damn time. So when a customer goes and says, thank you for coming and doing this, because what I do is a horrible job. Nobody likes doing what I do unless you're a nutter desperate. And I fit in both categories. I'm both a nut and desperate, right? But that said, so when a customer says, thank you for coming, my response is, no, thank you. If not for you, I would not have a job. The restaurant would not be a restaurant if its customers did not come in. And how does restaurants truly do well over time? Repetitive business. You want your clientele to come back. You want your clientele to be happy here, or to feel welcome. So having a lot of hostile content on any website that's corporate sponsored is bad. It's just stupid. From a business perspective, it's stupid. From a personal perspective, it's stupid. Why would you want to go? Look, there's plenty of websites, there's plenty of chat rooms, there's plenty of places to go out there and have it out over the real world shit, right? But we'll go back to that Catalyst thing, or that GW thing. One of the huge things to GW, from what I understand, is they go after anybody that actively makes their products. Even, synthetic knockoffs of their products is something they're not keen on. Everybody knows they're not keen on 3D printing. Catalyst has been pretty benign about 3D printing to this point. They understand that the player base, much of the player base, can't afford a huge amount of their products on a regular basis. And if they can get and still be in love with the program, here's the thing about this. I know a couple fellows that a couple associates of mine that I'm familiar with that I've met online and stuff have recently got into, they got a 3D, one fellow got a 3D printer for Christmas. And so he's been making minis. He's made some mini vehicles, and he's making buildings right now for his BattleTech. And he's even made an attempt. He's even downloaded I forget what mech he made, but it turned out pretty decent. I mean, it's a 3D printer in his home, so it's not top-notch stuff. But it's still putting out some pretty nifty stuff. The fact Catalyst turns a blind eye a lot to that sort of stuff is a good thing for us. That's one of the biggest bitches people have about Games Workshop, is that problem. Especially with the people who want to have the cheaper stuff. If you bought anything of Warhammer, you know it's expensive. It can be 10, 20, 30% more expensive than BattleTech material. And BattleTech material is still expensive to me. But I'm part, because $25 is, look, I couldn't come up with $130 to replace a tire on my van. What did I do? Well, my credit cards are damn near maxed out. So I had no choice. I went and I used my company gas card, my company card, to put a tire on my personal van. Then I went immediately to my employer and explained the situation I was in. And I know that they're very lenient with me because they know I'll pay them back, but it's not something I do lightly because it's theft. It's theft. I didn't ask in advance for permission to use it, and even if I'd asked for it, I have no business asking to use the company fuel card, which it's actually a credit card, because I can buy thousands of dollars worth of tires and thousands of dollars worth of mechanic work on that truck whenever I have to have it done. The boss just ups and downs the damn limit on it, but he maintains a pretty hefty limit on mine, which is because he trusts me. And I value that trust. I value that trust far, far deeper than I can explain. So it bothered me all weekend that I had to borrow this money, and I used the term loosely, borrowed. And then so Monday I talked to Kay, that's their office manager, gal that basically sits in the office all day, and she just kind of laughed, and I said I didn't know what else to fucking do. I mean, I tried to get the spare off the van. Tried. It took me 20 minutes just to find where the damn jack was hidden. I've never had the jack out in that van. I didn't even know where it was. Tire's up underneath the van, so it's all bolted up under there. And it looked like it was in pretty good shape. I mean, I don't know. It's got air. That was all I know. The problem was, once I got down on the ground, I'm laying in 2 inches of half-frozen slush in a 2-degree day in a parking lot at a gas station in my good coat. Matter and mother, because I'm having to deal with all this crap in my good coat too. Trying to figure out where the hell to put that damn jack under the back of the van, where I could reach. I could not reach the axle without crawling up around the damn tire, which would have just made me wallow in this stuff. And I didn't want to wallow in this shit on the ground any more than I absolutely had to. And then everything else into there, I wasn't. Look, 4 years ago, we used to have Illumina. Maybe, no, it's not been 4 years, 6 or 7 years ago. We had that Lumina had a flat, and I jacked it up to change the tire, and I put the jack in the wrong spot, and I bent something that cost me $500 to fix. And I was damn determined not to have that repeat with the van, so I went and bought a tire on a company dollar, and then immediately let my bosses and them tell them, and then Monday I asked Kay to basically split it in half. So for the next 2 checks, they're going to take, about $70, $65 out of my checks to cover that $130, which they're willing to do. I don't like doing that though. I feel shitty that I can't cover my own damn bill, my own emergency, and I couldn't cover it. A lot of Americans can't cover a $400 bill. Hell of a lot of us couldn't come up with a $1,000 emergency bill if our lives depended on it. We couldn't come up with $130. We had $35 left for groceries. And we spent them at the grocery store. So we had about $3 in our pocket. Now the wife had some stash money put back, and she doesn't have a job, and all of her Social Security, her disability goes to help pay for our stuff. And she does do some odd jobs at the office once in a while, and they give her a little cash on the side, but then, so she saves that. And then she does her artwork and stuff. She does a lot of artwork. She's big on etching mirrors and painting mirrors and things like that. And one of these days I'll have to do a little video on some of her stuff. We used to have an old gentleman down the road. Last year he went to a nursing home. He went into the veterans home, actually. But he used to come up by here all the time, and he was a hoot. And he bought every damn mirror she made. He probably paid her $2,000 a year for a couple of years there. And of course she's really missing that this year. And so am I. That was income. So anyway, she had some money put back, and I know she had enough to cover that damn tire. But I was not going to ask my wife to get into her tiny little personal stash to buy a fucking tire from the van that I should be able to pay for. Okay? So, when I hear people go on in dramatic aside about how the corporations are out to get them, well, first thing I'm inclined to agree with, because all corporations they're not in it for us. They've never been in it for us. The average working stiff in America, the corporations want us to be desperate and fearful. They've said it. The CEO said it. See, this is a grand example of why I don't go off on tangents of this nature on channels like Red's. Because Red would ban me, and damn rightful so, because it has nothing to do with the channel, or Battletech, or the game system, or any of this stuff. So when they start talking about things on Catalyst, on corporate websites, about stuff that's detrimental to corporate existence, they're going to shut it down. And they have the right to do so. And they get upset. No offense, Mage. You got upset for what? Because they shut you down because you were out of line? You were out of line? Did you stop and sit back and ask yourself why? Now, I'm pretty damn sure Catalysts, from what I know, they're pretty decent people. If you go and apologize to them and agree, then, they will reinstate you. They'll unblock you. But if you're going to keep going off on tangents, and can you blame them? Can anybody blame them for this? They don't want you talking about 3D printed minis on their websites in any form. They tolerate a lot of stuff, but when you start really getting into this, that, and the other thing, that's taking money out of their pockets. They have to protect their intellectual property. This is a corporate thing. It's a real thing. They have to protect their entity. At the end of the day, the owners of Catalyst want to protect the fact that they make a living off of Catalyst, and they enjoy their living. And to do that, they owe to Hasbro. So they answer to somebody. They have to answer to somebody. So if their sales take a hit, or they're bleeding something, or they're hemorrhaging something, or something else goes south, and Hasbro says, what's up? They need to be able to go, So they have to cover their asses. They have to police their websites. To expect them to do otherwise? Really? Oh, come on, man. Mage, come on. I don't know how old you are, Mage. I don't. But seriously? Seriously? It just seems like every year or so, there's some big hoopla. There's some big, scandal or some kind of drama ratchet. Like I said, it doesn't take much to ratchet me up from drama. I'm so wound up about the politics in our country right now, it's because I'm scared. I ain't lying. I got scared so much I'm a student of history. So when somebody starts talking about, I only want to be dictator for a day on day one. This is America. You don't get to be a dictator ever, period. Fuck off and die. And you know who I'm talking about. That man has no business being in office ever again. What's worse is the people that will come with him. They're the ones that will be the problem. You don't think so? Study your fucking history about Nazi Germany. So when you talk about petty shit like this on Catalyst policing their websites, seriously, this is what you're getting worked up over. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let it go. Who cares? At the end of the day, they're very decent people, and they've been pretty progressive. Everybody's been very happy with the progress that Catalyst has made over the past couple of years. They revived a dead franchise. Battletech was a dying franchise when FASA fell apart. And between FanPro and WizKids, they did it no favors. They did it no favors. I'm going to be doing a video a little bit here about this fucker. This shit probably would have killed them if they hadn't been on their way out anyway. So the fact that we're now into technically the fourth controlling entity over the franchise says something. And it says even more to Catalyst about how far it's come since they took over. They have revitalized Battletech as a game system. The fan base is stoked. It's growing. It is. It's not hard. So yeah, they got every right to protect their stuff, and nobody likes hey Mage, and I'm using you specifically, but there's a lot of others, and nobody wants to get blocked. Nobody really likes to get blocked. It's a personal affront. It's an attack on us personally. It's like, you know, saying our opinions and our views do not matter. And in a way, they don't when it comes to the bottom line. And there's a lot of good and bad with that. It's hard for me to get dramatically worked up over what's basically to me is a sugar cookie statement by Catalyst. As Red pointed out on his channel last night, I caught his podcast yesterday. I was out working in the evening and trying to catch up some jobs, and so yeah. Anyway, like I said, this is Wednesday, and I have a good chunk of the day off. For whatever reason, when I was working on Monday scheduling stuff, I'm so behind in things that I kept thinking yesterday was Wednesday. So when I finished the schedule, I looked at it when I got later in the evening. I'm looking at the schedule. I took a moment to step back, and I'm looking at the schedule I tried to create for what's left of the week. I realized it actually pretty much left Wednesday empty. I had one little job this morning. I just move it to a different day because it's not worth my time to go get the truck, get it running, let it run, go down to the south side, pump out a $90 grease trap, burn $70 worth of fuel and labor to do a $90 grease trap. It's not worth it. No, I will wait and I will power it up with other stuff. So this evening, for example, like I said, I have a pile of jobs that need to be done. Unfortunately for me, a lot of my jobs require either being in the evenings or they need to be on overnight. And overnight jobs tend to be really, really long. So there's nothing, you can do nothing else the next damn day. If you spend 10, 12 hours, you go to work at 8 o'clock at night and you work till 7 in the morning, what are you going to do the rest of your day? Sleep. Or be wishing you were asleep. So I was disappointed, to be honest. Not a catalyst. And I'm not a catalyst apologist. I will not apologize for any corporation's actions whatsoever. But I will be empathetic to why they issued the stuff they did. Now, I went around last night and tried, when I got home from, went on the internet and tried to find the damn statement. I went to Catalyst's website, but apparently it's on their social network sites, which once again, like I said, I don't frequent very often. And, so I haven't actually read the statement that they issued. I've read secondary versions of it where it was kind of a cut and paste somebody did, and it's hard to read. And it's not very long. And it's not very damning. It just reeks of common sense. Let's not talk about non-relatable material on our websites. Let's not drag everybody else down with our politics and our anger and our frustrations at the world. We come to these hobbies to get away from this. We do this so we can, for a moment, step away from that, the world. We create a fantasy setting of our own making, invite your friends and family and people we don't even know. This is one of the beautiful things about YouTube and the ability to have these channels is I can share my opinions with however many people want to listen to them. And if you didn't want to hear it, you clicked off. 95% of the people that view this video that shows that I got views, 95% of you will listen to about 30 seconds to maybe a minute of it. Be honest. I'm just like that too. If I get into something and I'm busy, I just keep scanning until I find something that catches my attention. Or, we just human nature, and we're kind of the products of our environment. I'm sorry to hear that stuff. Mage and the got blocked. Ask yourself why. No, stop. Seriously, stop. Personally to yourself, and put yourself in their shoes. And if you think that it's okay to market third-party products that, third-party BattleTech products on a BattleTech-owned corporate site, and you think you shouldn't they shouldn't tell you to stop or make you stop, then you really don't understand how this thing works. And there's no getting to you. There's no helping you. If, on the other hand, you're one of these people that took it personally, well, they don't want to hear my opinions. They don't want to hear my views. They shut me out. They blocked me. Okay. How much of that would they keep asking you to stop doing? Generally speaking, if you get blocked, they've usually warned you a couple times ahead of time. Now, perhaps they have not. Once again, I do not know. I do not know how this played out. I just remember the Blaine Pardoe, drama and hoopla that went on last year. Yeah, it was terrible. What they did to Blaine was bullshit. And everybody agrees with that. I'm not 100% on board with the corporate catalyst view on Pardoe. And the fact the man was so devoted to BattleTech, and he wrote so many great novels, and he contributed so much, it just seems like, they took a big shit on the man. All the stuff in politics aside, it didn't go well, and a lot of people took it personal, and it hurt Catalyst more than they want to admit. But they were also in the middle of a resurgence, a renaissance. We talked about it all last year, about this great renaissance of BattleTech, this momentum that's gone forward. We want the momentum to continue, and so does Catalyst. You think Catalyst wants to shut you down? You think Catalyst wants to block you? They don't. And a lot of Catalyst people that actually work for the company, follow quite a few channels. Mage, would not be surprised if a number of your subscribers to your channel actually work for Catalyst, because they're BattleTech fans. It's not because Catalyst is policing anything. It's not because Catalyst is spying on you to see what you're doing, making sure you're just doing it the our way. It's not like Catalyst issues a brand new set of rule books every 5 years and then tells you everything in the past is no longer canon. Because what are they trying to do? Games Workshop does that all the time, because I hear all you Warhammer fans cry about it a lot over the years. You cry about the prices, but more importantly, you cry about the changes, the massive changes that they make at a corporate level that supposedly takes a whole lot of stuff you spent a lot of your money on and makes it null and void in the eyes of the official corporate bullshit. How that plays out in the real world, in your house, and on your table, at your home, and in public places, I don't know. There ain't no corporation in the world can make you stop doing it. It's like I said, the games that I bought in my teens, that I do videos on my channel on a regular damn basis. Stuff that I bought 25, 35 years ago, and I do videos. This is intellectual property that I purchased from the company that made it. The company that made it produced a product that they have rights to. That means technically I should not be able to take any of Wizards of the Coast products, write something of my own, and then label it as one of their products. That's illegal for good reasons. But that said, they can't tell me. So right now, if you follow any of the drama bullshit going on over on that side of the damn gaming hobby, you'll understand that there's a whole lot of ugliness going there. And big part is because the corporate masters that handle their oversee Dungeons and Dragons are hell bent on turning it into a flat out video game, so they can milk their customers dry. That's what Games Workshop does. They milk their customers dry. They overprice their material on a regular damn basis. You all know they do that. They overprice their shit, and then they purposely make design changes and then say, look, we're no longer going to support any of this other stuff. We won't recognize it. Well, to say that their customers are going to go, oh, I'm just going to throw it all away and buy new stuff. Come on. Nobody does that. No, here's a 30-year-old damn game supplement, and I could sit down tomorrow, today, if I had some players to sit down with and run a damn game out of it. And they had a damn thing any corporate entity who had anything to do with this then or now can do to stop me. Because it's a purchased product. I own this. It's mine. All right? I just want to see more stuff come out. Just like everybody else. I want our hobby to thrive. I want our hobby to do well. I love it when new blood comes in, new people come in. I love it. I think it's great. I'm always positive, always encouraging people when they break into the hobby. I try to be as helpful as I can be, as most of y'all do the same. So all I can tell you is, in the scheme of drama and corporate bullshit, this is nothing. This is nothing. This is just them doing their jobs. Unfortunately, a few people been made examples of, and Mage is probably one of the most well-known of them at this point, and he's very upset about it. Very upset about it. Now, I haven't had a privilege of seeing any of his videos on it, or other than the very brief community post he put on YouTube yesterday. I don't really know his full side of it, and I'm empathetic to him. I am. I've been in his position once in my life, and I was younger and stupid and arrogant. Arrogance will fuck you over more than anything else. Arrogance and dishonesty will kill you at the end of the day. They'll kill your career. They'll kill your personal life. They'll kill your marriage. They'll kill your family trust. It does. I ain't making that shit up. Take a step. Sit back. Take a moment. Breathe deep. Give it a time. Reflect on why. So Mage, reflect on why. Why did they block you? What was you doing? What was you saying? What was you doing? And did you continue to do it after they asked you to stop? Did you? Then you have nobody to blame but yourself, Mage. That's just being an adult in a real world. They're not lying to you. They're not making up shit to fuck you over. They're not targeting you specifically. They're just trying to keep things reasonable, mild, more important, in game. You want to have a spirited debate or argument over Battletech politics? Hell yeah, right? I mean, let's talk about the Federated Sons. Well, Sandoval's in a position to basically take over the damn house if he really wanted to. The fact that he doesn't is a high mark for him. He has no desire to be first prince of the Federated Sons. He just wants to run his march and do it well, and to protect his people, and indirectly or associated to that, protecting the house as a whole. Yet the politics there are deep and nasty, and that's just one of scores, hundreds of different political bullshit in a fantasy setting. And we've all seen people get highly worked up over that. How dare you, insult my favorite mech unit, or my favorite mech, or my favorite whatever, or blah, or my faction. Because that's the nature. We're competitive. That's the whole part of a big part of these games in the first place is competition. We're competing to see who can outmaneuver somebody, or outfight somebody, or just win. Nobody wants to lose all the damn time. Losing sucks, right? Jeez, guys. Jeez, really, come on. And like Red said, yeah, he spoke his opinions, and he says it's probably going to cost him him some subscribers. Well, he loses a few hundred subscribers. It's not that big a deal for him. If I lose 100 subscribers, well, that would be a huge big deal for me. And I'm not trying to cheese anybody off or piss anybody off or tell anybody what to do. Mage, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not. I'm just asking, are you sure? You sure that, perhaps whatever the situation was, it didn't go too far, that they didn't get pushed beyond reason, or that perhaps you're overreacting to what's basically a generic statement that every company in the world puts out, right? I'm going to leap back to something because, like I said, my memory has this bad habit of skipping crap. I'm going to leap back to something. So I was at that little bar, and I was out all night, and I was dead tired, and I wanted to go home and go to fucking bed. And they didn't show up. And they didn't show up. They didn't show up when they were supposed to. The lady didn't show up. Her people didn't show up. So I called her. 20 minutes, I called her. And she says, well, I'm on my way. 30 minutes later, oh, I can't make it. So I actually sat in front of her bar for an hour, almost an hour and a half, when I could have been home in bed for an hour at that point. I was pissed. And I made a comment that I was pissed on Facebook and posted it. Now, I don't know about your Facebook. I don't even know if you follow Facebook or use Facebook or what. I've got very few followers on Facebook. It's not my first thing. I did a lot of stuff on Facebook, mostly for the RPG Brigade channel, because I'm trying to connect with the gaming world. I want to be involved. I want to participate, even though my personal life doesn't allow me to do that very well. This is my outlet, and I do it the best I can. So, connections-wise, I don't have a whole lot of people on my list, but mostly friends and family and some associates and game people that over the years. And so I made this comment that I was outside this bar, was dead tired and pissed off because yet again the owner bailed on me and left me hanging. And then I tagged the bar. There's where I fucked up. There's where I fucked up. And there's where my employers, my boss and his wife, mostly his wife, realized we have to issue a statement to everybody. Please don't do this. Please don't tag our customers when you're pissed off at them. Because what happened was, immediately the owner of the bar was notified by Facebook that somebody had tagged her location. Not the subject material, because usually people tag your location, say, "Oh, I've been here. It's great. The food's great. The service is awesome." Or they sit there and say, "The place sucks. This sucks. That sucks." As a customer, we're entitled to do that. That's something Catalyst does understand. So, Mage, the rest of you, Catalyst is fully aware of what happened and what's going on. They also are fully aware of how you feel about some of this, because they too are people. They're human beings. They work for a job. They work for a company. They work for Catalyst. Catalyst is not them. Catalyst is not people. No matter what the Supreme Court in America wants to tell people, corporations are not fucking people. They're made up of people. Meant to serve people. Not the other way around. But they tend to forget that stuff anyhow. Like I said, there's my heated views on politics and things and how my country works is so heated that I started using a second YouTube channel I made years and years ago that never got any traction to basically bitch about whatever, all the stuff everybody else bitches about too. And I got a whole whopping 23 subscribers on that channel. And I'm fine with that. That channel is never going to grow. If it does, I'll be shocked. If it, I had 24 for a while, but then apparently they decided they didn't want to listen to my rant and raving anymore, because that's pretty much all I do. I'll also talk about other stuff, like I'm gonna do a video for that channel on the dead Glock, the Nazi bell. If you're not familiar with it, I'm sure if you're familiar with it, then anything I got nothing new to add to it, just my opinions on it. But I'm gonna do a video for my other channel on that, and probably gripe about something else. What you doing, Mickey? What you doing? She's playing around down there by the trash box. By the way, this is the first video I've done with her being outside of her cage. So usually I have to put her in the cat carrier over here because I don't want her up in here. But I'm trying to get her so we don't have to go that route. And it's kind of the same thing when I look at stuff like Catalyst and other companies when they issue statements of the nature of more about content control over their social spaces. Social networking is extremely important in this country these days. It's almost it is an obsession for most people. And for a lot of us like myself, this is my only outlet, my only venue really to participate in the hobby that I've spent my entire lifetime devoted to. And I can't be the only person that's in this situation. I mean, I know a lot of people, just life in general. You know, when we were younger, we play a lot of games and we do a lot of things. And at some point, we put away our childish stuff to become adults and enter the adult world, and things like, you know, mortgages and careers and family and children and so on and so forth. And that takes a huge amount of our time. But things change. I'm in that older grognard category where things are changing for me. My daughter is long grown up and long married and moved away. My daughter and her husband and their kids live in a tiny town way down south, and we never see them. I have not seen her in 5 years. And we can't afford to drive down and see them, and they can't afford to drive up here because they're just as poor as we are. You know, it is what it is. It's like frustrating things. I get frustrated all the time. Last weekend, for example, started to mention this earlier and then got off on my tirade. I created a video on Platinum Estates for my would-be game, Interstellar Frontiers. And I was going to post it this morning, and for the love of Pete, apparently I deleted it last night because I was cleaning up some of the old videos and images and stuff out of my file folders, and I must have somehow deleted that one. And then first thing I did this morning, out of habit, was empty my wastebasket. So that video's... Now I'll have to recreate it. I'll be cheesy about it. It won't be as good as the first one would have been, I think. In part because I'm just going to do go through the motions with it. And then the other part of it is, I'm tired. This weather, it just kills me. Everything at my job is 4 times harder in the winter than in the summer. First thing in the day, my hands hurt so bad from the cold. It doesn't take long. I don't have arthritis yet, but the cold is really affecting my joints and my hands this year worse than it did in the past. It's very noticeable, and it hurts. And then there's the fact that everywhere I go, most of what I do is underground. So you have to find the manholes to put the hose in. Well, if it's under 6 feet of snow, so sometimes, yesterday, I went to a nursing home that we do as part of a small chain, and their interceptor, which is what they call these outside grease traps, is 4,000 gallons, and it has 2 manholes. One of them is set up in the grass, and the other one is set in the pavement of the employee parking lot in the back. So when they plow the parking lot, all they do is push all the snow to the front, right over top of the damn manholes. So when I got there, I went there Sunday. I wanted to do it Sunday, but I couldn't get into it. I spent 3 hours at the previous job on Sunday breaking ice off of the pavement so I could get the damn manhole open. And I have the MagnaFlare. I have a big, huge torch with a propane tank on it, and all it did was refreeze. It melted, and it was so damn cold Sunday, the water just refroze, and it made it worse. So after 3 hours of scraping and fighting and banging on a sledgehammer, a shovel, a fucking torch, I gave up. Went to the next place. I get there, and what do I got? I got a video of this, some pictures of it on my phone. The snowbank is as tall as I am. It's almost as tall as a truck. It's 7-8 feet for sure, and it's about 10 feet long. So starting in the end of the parking lot, almost up to the sidewalk next to the building. They shoved, because we had a massive snow come in on Tuesday of the previous week, and then 2 days later got hit with another one. And so we ended up getting close to 22 inches of snow in 3 days, which is very rare in Iowa. We usually get that amount of snow through the whole winter. We'll have a couple of good snowstorms and stuff, but it's rare. They said about 1 in 10 years. I think it's a little longer than that. It's been a while since I've seen snow piled up this high. And I've been in this house 5 years, and I've never seen drifts like we have. Never. I've never had 4 feet of snow at the end of my driveway that I had to dig out. And of course, the one time I decided to leave the big heavy duty snowblower that I got out in the shed out back, in the shed, because we have all these cats in the garage. I'm afraid I open the garage door, they run out, and then we spend the next 3 days trying to corral them and get them back in. They'll come back, but it's a pain in the ass. And so I just thought, well, we'll just not. In the past 4 years, I've not had enough snow at any given time that I couldn't handle with a shovel. My driveway's only about 20 feet long. It's not like it's huge, right? So it's not like it's huge. So I left the snowblower down there. My God, I wish I hadn't. But I wouldn't have been able to put it in the garage anyway. So I would have been outside on the back patio, if you want to call that thing a patio, covered in a tarp, because that's where my rider's sitting at. My rider's sitting out back, covered in tarps, snow piled on top of them, because I'm more worried about those stupid stray cats in the garage than I am my equipment, which is me, right? I'm getting old and stupid or sappy, or I don't know, trying to be human, trying to be more human the older I get, you know? I don't like hearing this kind of stuff. I'm sorry to hear it. I'm sorry Catalyst did something to piss a bunch of y'all off. I'm really sorry, Mage. I'm sorry that you're upset about it. And I'm empathetic. I'm sympathetic too. Like I said, I've been banned before. I've been blocked. It's not fun. I know that you can become unblocked, and probably faster and sooner than you think. But they're not going to do it right now because your blood's still burning. And then if you burn your bridges completely, they'll, why would they? What's their value? Which is a shame because of all the great content and product your channels produce. If you don't think Catalyst is painfully aware of social websites on things like Red's channel and Mage's channel and Mechanical Frog's channel and hundreds of other BattleTech related channels don't affect them as a company, you're mistaken. I'm sorry, my friends, but you're terribly mistaken. There are people at Catalyst who are damn aware of just how important the social society of the gaming and the BattleTech fan base is. They understand it. They endorse it. They embrace it. They love it when we do stuff like this. They enjoy the content you produce just as much as a lot of the people who don't have any clue what the hell BattleTech does. We want that to continue. They want that to continue. They really don't want to see you, Mage, shut your channel down. Are you going to do that? Are you so upset at Catalyst right now that you're going to cut ties altogether with your hobby? Are we that point? If you're at that point, Mage, I'm sorry. I really am. I don't have any way or any answers or any wisdom or any of that stuff other than y'all made a mistake. And it wasn't Catalyst that did the mistake this time. Y'all were out of line. Y'all were talking about subject material that you didn't need to be talking about. More importantly, you continued to do it when they asked you to stop. When you go to a grocery store and you take your shirt off in the grocery store and start trimming your toenails next to the Wonder Bread, how long do you think before somebody at the store asks you to stop? If you walk into Walmart and, I don't know, start screaming and yelling at people just for fun, or because you're frustrated because they're out of bananas or something, like that's ever going to happen. But you think that Walmart would be out of line or wrong for asking you to shut up? And if you don't, calling the cops and having them make you shut up or haul you away? How is that wrong? How is it wrong? I have to ask that, man. How is it wrong, Mage? How is it wrong? This is no-win situation for anybody, Mage. You're not going to win this situation. You're not going to win. Blaine Pardoe did not win, did he? At the end of the day, Blaine went his way. BattleTech went its way. Catalyst is still making BattleTech products. We're still buying their books and their novels. Other writers are writing stuff. It's sad. Blaine had a lot of intimate knowledge of how the things worked and the makings. He contributed a massive amount of how BattleTech ran. Not the mechanics, but the world. I've said it before in other video games. BattleTech is unique in many ways, and one of the biggest unique things about BattleTech, in my opinion, is this is a tabletop war game that invites everybody who's not tabletop war gamers to the hobby table, to the table. And they do so in part because they produce such a lot of material that has absolutely no your average war game, the BattleTech, the war game, none, it doesn't need any of this. None of this. None of it. And you know it and I know it. They don't need it. No, this is for the lore and for the stories and for the novels to enrich the world. So we play a BattleTech. For those people who play war games, they're playing a war game in a very rich environment that has a lot of story and attitude. Right? Huge difference from things like Panzer Leader. Panzer Leader is a great war game. I got scores of them. I've got some videos on my channel of war games, and they're great. But there's nothing anywhere in them that has novels and source books and background material like BattleTech does. Warhammer comes close. I grant you, Warhammer comes close. They follow the same formula. So aside from Catalyst or the BattleTech franchise, because you go all the way back to FASA, because FASA is the one that come up with this idea, right? So you follow this, and we get to the modern age. There's only two companies out of all the game companies out there that do as well as they do with what they do. Well, they can make the argument, well, you know, Dungeons and Dragons and 100 other fantasy role-playing games. No. Well, true. If you go back to the very beginning of Dungeons and Dragons, the original game was a tabletop war game that Gygax and his friends enriched and fluffed up. And over time became the behemoth that it is today. Even though Wizards of the Coast and their masters are doing their level best to kill it. It's not Hasbro, it's Topps. Is it Topps? No, it's Topps with BattleTech, Hasbro at frickin' Wizards of the Coast. Too much shit to keep track of. Anyway, I'm me. Missy. Little Missy back there? She's sitting back there? Is that your little Missy? Right there? Oh, is it your right there? Yes. Little Missy right here. Yeah. Yeah. Ain't you bite my hand, you little turd. Right? Till next time. Hey. We'll get past this. This isn't the end of the world. It's not good for the hobby. It's not good for the company. We need the company to be successful if we want it to continue. My bookshelves are full of defunct game systems made by defunct companies that in some avenue, in some way, is still being manufactured by another companies down the road, but they're not the same. Right? That's just the nature of the world. It'd be like, I don't know, I was unhappy with a lot of things, with the way things played out in the early 2000s, which caused me to drift away from the game, and I really regret that. I have a lot of regrets in my life, and that's a regret too. That's not a minor regret compared to some of my other regrets, but at the end of the day, it'll endure, the company will endure, the game will endure, the fan base will continue, and unfortunately a few people will be casualties of it, and that's sad. And most of the casualties, and I'm speaking to y'all, Mage Leader, I'm speaking to you in this case, don't be a casualty here, my friend. You love this hobby too much. It's in your work, it shows up in your content on your channel. Don't do this to yourself. You're your own worst enemy at this point. Catalyst does not issue, I'm damn positive. I don't know any of these people at Catalyst. I don't know them from Adam. They don't know me from Adam. I would probably crap myself if one of those people showed up on my website and made any kind of comment. I wouldn't believe it in the first place, but I would crap myself. But that said, they don't wish you any ill will at all. They just want you to play nice. Is it too much to ask people to play nice? It's like Red's channel. There are times when I want to have conversations on that channel about some stuff, and Red will shut it down because he doesn't want to hear it. In part because he has a business to run. It's a business. He's making a living doing this. He has to police his channel. Right? I've not been banned from his channel, not that I know of. I think he might have got kicked off there once, but I don't remember what the topic was. The topic was something that was stupid, and Red got annoyed by it, because Red's a human being, and he's entitled to get, you know, annoyed. I love Red's channel. I kind of I love to see how well it grew, and it's still growing. That's awesome stuff. And he's doing well for himself. I don't always agree with him. I don't always agree with his takes on stuff. Although most of what he says about BattleTech, I have no reason to believe anything else. The man's experience, he's been playing it for 30 damn years, and he's devoted to it. He's devoted to it so much that he's got a successful podcast channel, and that's what his channel is. Mostly, it's the podcast is what that floats his channel, not the videos. But because of the podcast, because of the fan base that supports his channel, he's able to make better and longer videos, which are even more important. Red's stuff is bordering on text quality. He's not there. Red, you're not there. Not that you listen to my channel, why would you? That's not true. Red occasionally makes a comment on my channel. I appreciate Red for everything you do and say and everything that you support for the most part. But that's human nature. At the end of the day, my friends, don't hurt yourselves. Don't hurt the hobby. Don't box yourself into a corner. And that's why I've seen it hundreds of times. I did this myself. And I got to go back to the late 90s, 99. Between 1999 and 2002, my life went to hell. And it went to hell in spades. And I made it go there, in part. And then I expedited it even worse because I basically doubled down on stupidity. And then I got into an extreme depressive state, which led me to make even stupider decisions or not follow up on things I should have. And that cost me and my family dearly, extremely dearly. I don't like to talk about it. I really don't like to talk about it. It's a shameful thing. It's a shameful part of my life, right? It also cost me a big chunk of my gaming hobby. You know, I was part of a group. The group didn't want me around no more, and I can't blame them for it. And then I was part of a online community that ran, actually was in behind the scenes at a company, the small outfit called Federation. Federation was, and I still is, I think it's still around, is a text-based MMO. And it's very crude by anybody's standards. I started playing that game, another game called Modus Operandi, which is by another company. I think it's Gemstone or Gemstone 3 or something. Back in the early to mid 90s, right after I got my first computer and I got my first internet. We still using the 14.4 baud modems, you know, and little floppy disks and stuff. I was writing and producing a fanzine for Federation. Federation had to go, there was a transitional period when it was on American Online when I first started playing, and then at some point American Online realized that the gaming community was growing and they were losing out on money. So they kicked all the freebies off, including companies like the Federation got kicked to the curb, and then they started putting their own games out, which a lot of us didn't like. And so the guy that owned Federation lives over in Britain, and he had a girlfriend of sorts that lived over here that helped manage this side of the business. And so he had to go and shut down for I don't know how many months. It was 6-8 months because he had to get servers. He had to get he had to get all the hardware he needed. He had to get it all set up. He had to get money for it. I mean, or not the money, but the support to run everything, and so he could independently run the game himself, and which is what he did. And in the process, they watched their fan base dry up. You know, there's no game content. There's no new stuff. You can't actually play the game at all because you can't access it. You start losing people. They go other places. They find other games, and they lose interest. So I was writing this extensive news zine that I put out every couple of weeks, probably 15, 20 pages. So you talk about 30 pages, you know, 15 back-to-back pages or so of digital content with all kinds of, you know, I took a lot of lessons from Battle Technology and applied it to this game set, or this news zine that I was writing. And the owner and his girlfriend were so impressed by it, I guess, or just were very appreciative of it, that after everything got off the ground and they got back up and running again, there was some. They started working. He'd been working on another game system it was more like adventures in the 1800s kind of stuff, and I got drawn in behind the scenes to do for both as a play test, a beta tester, and to contribute material to the game. And I don't know, I went off the deep end. Like I said, I had a lot of problems, and they all came together at one time, and I didn't handle them at all. And then when they fell apart even worse, I just imploded. And yeah, right. So it can be a hell of a lot worse, Mage. It can be a hell of a lot worse than this. This is nothing. This is petty. You're being petty, man. Although you're upset, yeah, I get it. And it's this day and age, everybody gets upset. People get upset so easy over the stupidest stuff because everybody is so tight. We're literally wound up like rubber bands. In America, it's horrible. It is very dodgy out here. You know, part of this problem it's been going on for probably 15 or 20 years. And part of this problem is, this is where I know personal. We're back to me ranting and raving personally again. And I got to stop because I'm going to get off this thing. Just running this damn video's probably running into a freaking hour already. And I start losing my train of thought, right? At the end of the day, just stop. Take a breath. And look at what Catalyst said. And ask yourself, doesn't that make sense? The company makes its money by selling us products. A big chunk of that product, at the point, is physical items, so the miniatures are important to them, to their bottom line. And it's very progressive of them to encourage the Battletech community, by and large, to use third-party products or, I don't know, make their own. Because we all know how Games Workshop handles that stuff. They go litigate it. They'll sue your ass if you get to be too much. You're taking money out of their pockets. They're coming for you. Catalyst has got at a point has to answer to the to tops. They have to answer to the people who own the franchise. They're leasing BattleTech. Catalyst does not own the rights to BattleTech. We all know this. They're just leasing the rights. So they have to answer to the people who own it. And if they do something or they allow stuff to be detrimental to them as a business and they don't address it, that can be a problem for them on many levels. And then it becomes a bigger problem for the rest of us too. You know, because, no offense, that transition from Facet to Fan Pro WizKid thing was very bad. And in that period of time, I didn't stick around long enough. I wasn't in a position to do it anyway, to follow up on the products when they did start producing things. So when they started putting out material, I've gone back, and you see me, I do videos on them. That's my big thing. I do 2 videos of BattleTech every week. And that's because there's so much material on BattleTech. I have a stack easily this high of PDFs printed out there that I haven't bound up yet. And I still got 4 or 5 that are bound up that I haven't read yet. So, I mean, there's a lot of my time goes when I'm sitting out there in my job. The truck's sitting there, the pump's running, the truck's running, a hose is in the ground, sucking stuff out of the pit. And it can take 35, 45, 50, an hour, depending on how deep it is and how thick it is to pump that load out. So while I'm just sitting there, I'm either, reading my stuff, taking notes, or watching YouTube videos that y'all produce, right? And it's like red stuff. I love red stuff. I get frustrated sometimes because I'm literally driving places when I'm listening. So there'll be comments and there'll be something I want to chime in on, but by the time I can, it's too late and most people have no idea what the hell I was talking about. And then of course, his channel is very successful, and that success also has some detriment to it. And I don't know that it's important to anybody other than people like myself. When it was a smaller channel, there was far fewer of us on there. We had a lot more conversations that were more interaction between a fewer people. Well, now you get 80 or 90 people in the chat. Most of it's just chatter and noise. You know, half the people don't comment at all. They're just listening to the content. They're like me. They're doing something else. And that's this background entertainment form. It's no different than running a television. You're leaving your TV running while you're reading a novel, or you're doing your taxes or something. I mean, it's the same thing. We'll get over it. We'll get past it. Let's just not make a huge fucking thing out of it. It really isn't that big of a deal, except for the poor people that did get blocked. And I'm positive if they just reflect on why they got blocked and just be a little more reasonable about it, and then approach Catalyst and say, look, I apologize. I understand I understand your position, and I will do my level best to honor that position, and then do that. And there's too many trolls out here. And why do people troll? Because they can get away. They can. And some people, they troll because they have no other outlet. That's something to consider too. Why do people do what they do? Why do the people do what they do? Why do we talk the way we talk? Why do we do what we do? Why do I do this crap? Why do I even bother making this damn video? You know, I really don't know. Anyway, till next time. Little Misty over here, wherever she's at. She's moving around. No, guess she's still sitting over here. We'll see you guys in the next video, all right?